Ah, thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you, everyone. Hello, I'm Jane Chao, and I'm from Taiwan. I teach programming at school, and recently we have been introducing visionOS development into our classroom, and this SnowGlobe is part of our courses. And I chose to share this because it's the one that brought me the most joy, and I had learned a lot from this project. So in this session, I will talk about first modeling basics. Yes, it's not about programming, but I think it's what makes this project more fun because we actually built this snow globe from scratch. It was very challenging but very rewarding because when I first saw this snow globe in Vision Pro in my environment floating in the air, even though it was a very simple prototype, I already feel like I'm a very special person. I can create something in the reality, virtual reality. Yes, so I want to share this feeling with you. And then I will talk about Reality Composer Pro. This is where we set up all of this dynamic thing that you have seen on the screen. I have used Reality Composer Pro 1.0, and my expectation with it was that I think I am supposed to set up all the initial scene with the app, but unfortunately, in 1.0, I think I can only do like 20 or 30%. I still need to do most of the work with my code. But this year, there's a lot of new feature, and I think it's really improved. I was able to do most of the things just using Reality Composer Pro. I had to write very little code. It was like maybe 30 lines of code. So I want to share this with you too. Maybe you can utilize this too as well. Okay, so let's get started. I will first talk about how do we bring our idea into a model. Well, the first thing that I would encourage you to do is to think about how this model will look in different perspectives, like how it look in front, how it look from the side or from the top view, or even from the back, or how big is it and how does it fit into the world that you are creating. This will help you understand what you want to create quicker and save your time in longer term. So I will show you our example. This is from my amazing teammate Mia. She shared all this picture with me. And this was our first prototype image. So this is the snow globe. And after we draw this, we realized this wouldn't work because a snow globe is a sphere. It's a perfect sphere. So if we have our castle to be so big, then we won't be able to put anything else in it. So we need to iterate. And then we have this version 2. You can see the first thing we do is draw a perfect circle to make sure we constrain ourselves inside this defined space. So you can see our castle is smaller, and we are able to put mountain at the background, so it makes the scenes look so much richer. And we are happy with this, so then we start to work on the top view, which is on the right-hand side. So this simple shapes just represent all the elements that we want to put. So they are mountains, castles, tree, and sheep. So with that, we feel like we are confident we can start building it. And that was our first prototype model. We both really like it, and we think it looks really nice. But it's not enough because this is supposed to be a model that will help us teach the functionality of Reality Composer Pro. And I couldn't think of any interesting interaction to add to this model. But luckily, we are in this amazing era of AI. So AI gave me this amazing idea that is adding a chain. So we can have a chain circle around the snow globe. And I think this is brilliant because it's very easy to do and it's a very prominent animation, very prominent interaction. User can see it from every angle. So we started building with that direction. And this is our second prototype model. You can see we also improve our castle design based on AI suggestion. So we will recommend you before you start modeling, think about the size, how much space it needs, and how it fits into your overall world. And you can draw it. You can use anything around you to build it. Like if you have a Lego, you can try to build it with Lego. And you can, of course, use AI to help you. Okay, so now we have our idea. How do we turn the idea into a 3D model? I will introduce two basic modeling technique, that is extrusion and box modeling. You will find these tools in any 3D modeling tool that you use. So first, extrusion means that you extend a 2D shape, extend its z-axis. Like here, we have a square, and I can just extend. And now it's a cube. It's a box. It's a 3D box. Very easy. And this would be even easier with softwares. Like here, I am using a tool called Spline. So I have an app logo here, and I just need to go to the side panel. There are those sliders. So there's this extrusion. It will help us to extend the z-axis, and the bevel, which will create rounded, nicer edges for us. So I'll just quickly show you when I change it. Ta-da, it's a 3D apple now. And then I can add the bevels so the edges look nicer. Yeah, it just took a few seconds. So yeah, I think everyone can try this with your app logo. Okay, and you can also just import a SVG file to create this, so it's really easy. And you can also use SwiftUI to do extrusion. Turns out we can do this with SwiftUI path or attribute string. So here I'm just making this heart-shaped path to a 3D shape. And what you need to do is create a shape extrusion options. So here I define I want the depth to be 0.1 meter. And also we have this chamfer radius. It's similar to the bevels, which will create a nicer edges. Yep, and just give this initializer your path and the option that we just created, and you will have this 3D mesh that you can use. And this also works in iOS and macOS. Okay, and let's talk about the next technique, that is box modeling. So with box modeling, we will start with 3D shapes, or primitive 3D shapes. It would be like editing it like molding clay and making it become the way you want. So let's see by example. Like you can choose any primitive 3D shapes that your software has offered. Most of the time, it would be a cube. So that's why it's called box modeling. And with the cube, then we can start adjusting its faces. So it's pretty much just like extrusion, but we can do more. We can select the specific face that we want, and we can also rotate it. So we can create more interesting shapes with this. And we can also adjust its edges. So yeah, also we can move it, scale it up, scale it down, and rotate it. Yep. And then I believe you can guess now, we can also adjust its vertices. So we can create a lot of cool shapes with this technique. But a primitive shape only have a fixed number of faces, edges, and vertices. So it may not be enough for us to create the shape that we want. So what do? We have another technique that's called a loop cut. So the red line here is a loop cut. I'm editing this line like slicing a cake, but I'm not sharing it. I'm just creating more faces, more edges, and more vertices. Like in the front view, you can see now we have 2 faces and also two more edges and 2 more vertices, I think. Yep. So let's see this in practice. So how do I turn this cube into a house? Okay, I will tell you. So I will create a loop cut at the center and just pull a new edge at the center off. And yeah, we have a house. Okay, so how about we create the rooftop? the roof, because the roof is a different part of the house. So I create another cube for it. So it's actually the same. I will add a new loop cut at the center and just move both of the center edges, and we have the shape. And just continue edit with all the control point, all the vertices, until it fits our house. Yeah, and now we have it. Yes, we have the foundation of this house. Okay, so now we have learned extrusion and box modeling. Lastly, I want to say that you don't even need those tools sometimes, because like for example, our chain, we actually only use cylinder and cube. You can count how many cylinder and cube we use to create this. So maybe it's not beautiful enough for you, but when you are able to see your creation in the air, I think you will really feel so cool. You will feel so empowered. You will think like, wow, there's so much thing that I can do. And you will have more imagination of this new dimension. And I also want to say to the people who live in Singapore, because you have developer center here, you are very lucky. You can just go to the center to test it. So take the advantage of it. Okay, now enough of modeling. Let's talk about Reality Composer Pro. We will use this to bring our model into our app. So this is just a quick look to let you know how this app looks like. So we can put any USD file into this app and then just use it to compose your scene. And you can just edit on this center viewport, just move it, put it to wherever you want it to be. So it's very easy to use. And on the right panel is where you have some configuration, and we call it components in Reality Composer Pro. So we will use this tool to make our SnowGlobe more appealing. Okay, so the first thing we add is particle effects. We have snowfall and sting from the chain. And those are from those 6 presets. This is the default preset in Reality Composer Pro. So we build the sting from impact and snowfall from the snow. And I will show you how they actually look like. So you can see they all look quite different, like the way they move, the way they change over time, their speed and their size. So they are very unique. If you want to create some particle, I would recommend you just choose one that's closest to what you want in mind. Maybe it's the movement, maybe it's how they are emitted, anything. And then just start from there, play around with the property, and you will get a feeling of how to create your particle. And there's just one thing that I want to address. It wasn't very intuitive for me, is that particles, they live in word space. What does that mean? So let me just show you what will happen if I move my SnowGlobe. This is definitely not how we want it. So I was very shocked when I first saw this. But then I learned that this is actually the normal behavior of a particle. Because let's say if I fart here, I don't expect when I move, my fart will follow me, then I will feel like that's horrible. So our particles should stay where they are. So that's what happened just there. And so what do we do? The problem is our SnowGlobe itself is already a little world. I don't want you to come to my world. So turns out it's just a checkbox. It's very easy. Just turn on this particles in local space, and the problem is solved. So now we can happily move our SnowGlobe. I know it's very a simple checkbox, but it was very shocking for me. So I just want to share this with you. Okay, then we have light. I think light is very important. It can make the environment look more realistic and more alive. So here are the 3 types of lights that we can use. First one is the spotlight. It's a cone-shaped light. This only lights up the place that it's pointing toward, like the yellow arrow here. And then it's directional light. It also has this yellow arrow, but it's simulating a light that's from a very, very far place. So all the entity in your scenes can receive this light. So you can see Like my arrow is pointing toward the right side, but both of the entity is receiving the light from their left side. And then we have point lights. This is a 360 light, so it's just like you placing a bonfire there. And the position also matters. Okay, with that, now we have this snow globe. It just looks so much alive and prettier, like the train now is steam and has the headlight. It's just like, oh, it's there waiting for me, ready to go. And also the castle with the light looks like someone is living there. So I think they are very powerful, but they can also be quite expensive as well, so use them wisely. Okay, and next, let's add some sound. Here are the 3 types of sound that we can edit. First is a special audio. It will place the sound source in a specific location, and you can perceive its distance and direction. And ambient audio is fixed to a direction. So like if you put audio in the user's nose, no matter where the user move, they will always hear the sound from their nose. Yes, so then we have channel audio. Channel audio is just a traditional one. You either have it or you don't have it. So it's a checkbox. And there's this one property that I want to share because I think it's really interesting. That is this roll-off factor in spatial audio. By default, it's 1. And this number defines how quickly does the volume drop when the user move away from this sound source. So let's hear it. Like, okay, right now we can hear the sound. And when we get closer, it's louder. So this is the default settings. And when I move away, now I can see the little Windows handle down there. And we can still hear it. Okay, so now let's hear it again. Like, what if I set it to the maximum 5? Here I'm starting the video from the same distance, but it will be much quieter. So let's listen to it. Okay, but when we move closer, we can still hear the same volume. And when we move away, the volume just drops really quickly. So that's what this roll-off factor does. And I think it's super useful because in our scene, we have this train. And we want to make it more realistic, so we add some sound of the engine and also when the steam release sound. We feel like it's really good, the nice detail. We love it when we were in Reality Composer Pro. But when we actually put it into our app, it's just always there with the engine sound. I think it's just a noise. I don't love it. And that's how we find out this setting. So the user experience changed. So it would be like, oh, at first they didn't know there's a sound. But if they care enough, they move close to observe the string, they will hear the sound and be like, oh, what a nice detail. So I think this is a better user experience. Okay, now the final section is about button interaction. This button actually works, and it will trigger something I haven't shown you. I will show you right now. And when I am playing this video, you can also listen to the special audio on the train that I just mentioned. When the train moves to the back of this mountain, you can actually feel it's going away. Okay, that was the interaction and sound. So, how do we create this interaction with Reality Composer Pro? So we will use this new components that's called behavior. Here in this screenshot, you can see I define when the entity is tapped, I want to do an action, and the action is play tap sound. So on behavior, you can set a timing. You can set those for timing on tap, on collision, on edit to scene, and on notification. How about the action? Where is the action came from? So the action is from timelines. Timeline has this multi-track editor. It's like video editing. So because most of the time when something happens, it's not just one simple action. Here is what I define what should happen after the button was pressed. So the first check is that I have moved the button, the position of the button to simulate the press physics. And then the second one is that I play the click sound. And the third check is I activate the chain. This is actually referring to another timeline because it's more complex. There's a lot of things needs to happen with the chain because of the sound, and it needs to move. So that's the timeline, and those actions are actually from the right panel. The right panel is there the system-defined action. You can just drag and drop and move it into the timeline. So here are the 12 actions that the system has provided. You can only use them. I think they are all very useful. It will be much easier than you trying to code it. But I think the most valuable one is this notification, because this will allow me to do things beyond those predefined actions. I can just have my code to listen to some certain notification and react to it. So let's see how it's done. Let's say I want to print hello from my timeline, but there's no such a print action. What do I do? I can just use a notification action, and I send a notification, print hello. And then this will be sent to the notification center. And on my code side, I can just subscribe to it. And when I receive this notification, I will just use my code to say, hey, print hello. And this is the actual code. So I will use notification center, and I just need to listen to the notifications from this domain, realitykit.notification trigger. And then I will extract this object, this notification object. I will extract the identifier. That was the notification name that we just defined. So if the name, the trigger ID is print hello, I print hello. So that's it. And this also works the other way around. Let's say I have this stop the chain timeline, and I want to code it from my source code. Can I do that? I cannot. I don't have access to any reference in the Reality Composer Pro. But we can utilize behavior. We can set up an entity with these behavior components and have it to be triggered on notification. Let's say the name is please stop the chain. And I put the action stop the chain here. That's the timeline. So now they are linked together. And from my source code, I just need to post the notification trigger, and then notification center will take care of the rest. Okay, let's see the code again. So I believe you are all very familiar with this post function, but there's just one thing that's a little bit different is that when we send the notification trigger, we also need to send this reality kit thing. So you can get this from the environment, and it's an optional value. You will only get it when there's actually a reality kit things in your view, because a timeline belongs to the things that they define. So you have to send this thing and a trigger to notification center. Okay, so that was everything I've done with the SnowGlobe. And lastly, I want to show you the very little code that we need for this SnowGlobe. It's really not that much. It's just 3 sections. So first section is this. I use Reality View. This is the view that bridges Swift UI and Reality Kit. And here, first, I just take out all the entity that I need. Like I put in my SnowGlobe, add it to the view. And they save some references for later use. And then I have this onReceive. This is used to get a notification, so I can use my code to generate more sting when the chain is moving. And finally, I need to add a tap gesture. This is the one that you need to remember, because it turns out even though untap behavior works in Reality Composer Pro, but it doesn't automatically work in your app. You still need to manually edit the tap gesture and call this method, apply tap for behavior. I'm not sure why it's designed this way, but I think it's for the flexibility, because if it's designed this way, then I can do some logic check before I actually do the behavior. Maybe there's some time I want to disable this action, or maybe I want to do some different behavior. Maybe when the train's moving, this will become stop the train. So yeah, that was all the code that is needed to create this SnowGlobe. Really not a lot. Okay, so we have learned how to bring your idea into reality. We can use extrusion and box modeling to create 3D models, and you can start with something really easy, like turning your app's icon into 3D. And we have learned that you can easily use Reality Composer Pro to create a dynamic, beautiful scene without much coding. And finally, I just want to give special thanks to my amazing teammate, Mia, because we built these courses together, and I really think this project and this talk belongs to both of us. So shout out to Mia. And I hope you enjoy this talk and have a great time at the conference.